Hi everyone. Today is September the 12th, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. My name is Anne-Marie Band, and we are waiting for, the PPI. And wow, we're in a very tight morning range. Let's look at the daily first. And what we can see is deep dips are buy zones. Now, how do we get to a space where we understand, listen, that's where we want to see price action build? And it comes from looking out on the far levels and saying, all right, where's my value area low? Where's recent bounce support? I know I've got a cross current, so I'm very likely to see action that traces and then retraces. And that gives you that premise to say, all right, as it loses this edge, if I'm looking for a long, I've got to give it some room and allow it to base and find a bottom. So very quickly, let me show you what the base and find the bottom looked like yesterday. It didn't give us a ton of time. But also very interestingly, what we know statistically speaking is that the VIX tends to have its high around the middle of the day. All right? So that's the first thing. But the most important thing, even if you didn't know anything about the VIX, it is this. When a stock stops heading lower and reverses, it always does this. It's the mechanic of flow. It fails to hold lower. It breaches above its ranges. And then it either pulls back and holds a higher low, or it continues higher. Look at how shallow the pullback for this one is. It actually occurs on the 11 a.m. candlestick, and the pullback is really off of the high of that 11 a.m. candlestick, and then you're off to the races. Bob's your uncle. All right? So I actually talked to a Brit friend of mine, and I said, why do you guys say Bob's your uncle? And he said, because it's easy. Everybody's got an Uncle Bob. So it made a lot of sense to me. Now, if you want to look at a tighter time frame, you have to give it a little bit of room, but what it does is show you that very specifically. Fails to close lower, bounces through resistance, pulls back, gives you a higher low. At the same time, if you use TrendSpider, you can see this volume, price, and trend indicator. You can see it shifting over. If you use the hull, is this a hull? Yes. If you use a hull, you can see you're getting on top of that hull. It's beginning to slope. And then you can simply walk your way up the chain and have yourself a magnificent day. Yesterday was a beautiful trending day. Your brain needs to go, I'm just going to trust what I'm seeing and not think about what could happen. Imagine if you were driving in a car and every single time you got into the car, you became absolutely paranoid about what could happen instead of paying attention to the road in front of you. You're probably more likely to crash. Just saying. Okay, so levels for today. We are looking here at a move into 55.84. Listen, the point of control is up here. This is the wall of worry that happened, what was that, last week, Tuesday or something? And we're waiting on the PPI. And so this 50% line, and Fibonacci's are awesome. I have the 61.8. That is 55.88. Oh, for heaven's sakes. What am I doing? Okay, 55.88, and then, of course, 56.25. Listen, we could easily break to the north. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just going to follow what the market is telling me. And right now, it's telling me, hey, I got a lot of cross current. My dips are going to make the most attractive buy zones. And I've got something up here called a point of control that tends to be a magnet. Very, very choppy. Look at how many days we sat in this range. And then, boom, we moved off to the edge. So I suspect we come up into the space, retrace maybe 50%. So we're looking between 55.80 and 56.14-ish. Levels all the way up to 56.27. And there we go, right? But as an intraday trader, remember, you just want to follow the flow. And right now, we're sitting in a sideways pattern, waiting for a breakout or a breakdown. When the news comes, look at the news from yesterday, Savage dip, bought up and then collapsed. If you're using the VIX to help you with direction, doesn't really work until the first 10 minutes or so of the trading day is engaged, and then it's great. You can use it then. It's just slow on the uptake, so watch your trend. And right now, we're converging. Time flow says we are sideways. Look at this, flat as a pancake, but generally bullish. Holding the VWAP, looking at a range. So you look for the range to break to the north. A shallow pullback gets you in the game, and you're off to the races into those higher levels. All right, so let's have a peek at the NQ. Same sort of thing. NVIDIA, that CEO, he's got some charisma, and he gets in front of a crowd. NVIDIA moved up 15% yesterday? It was monstrous. A very, very big move. And so, if that guy leaves, it's going to be trouble. But big picture, look at this. It's a wedge that's building, right? Now, we drew a line just the other day, and that wedge did break. What do we normally do with a wedge break? Now, that is a broadening downward formation. It's absolutely awful, right? Because you can't really tell directional flow because the volatility of the motion is making it really difficult to say, give me a direction, let me choose it. And that's because there really isn't a direction. Today's day 4, moving up. Again, are we above the close of the prior day? Yes, that means bullish motion. Pullbacks are buy zones, but they could be very deep. And then upward motion into the point of control, 19,635. If we collapse into yesterday's motion, we're going to be looking for either a very short rotation of time into downward flow, and then we find the buying of the dip again. Okay? Eventually, I do believe we get down here, but we're not doing it right now. And even though this is downward and this is downward, these two moving averages, how you know what price is doing is by looking underneath price to see if it's making higher lows or if it's making lower lows. That's going to give you directional flow every single time. Every single time. What is going to be difficult sometimes in the day is to manage the risk. Let's take a look at the YM. YM, man, look at that thing. I was watching the YM very closely. I actually traded the YM yesterday. I did not really expect for it to get all the way down here to the value area low. I said that yesterday in the video, right? I'm like, if we're really lucky, we get down there. And it did. Began to hold, and now here we are up at the point of control. So I think the YM is maybe telegraphing this move, but it's also sitting in a space where a bounce can lead to another sell-off, right? Now, where are more buyers going to go, holy cow, I got to turn around and start buying even more? It's up above 41,063, all right? That's what we're looking at. Below 40,794, we've got ourselves more downside action. We are well above the high of the prior day, which means it's performing way better than the others, but we're waiting on the PPI. And, big spike, look up, big spike. Watch collapse right down into a 1 minute, 2 minute. If you want to catch that trade, it's going to rotate. You'll be able to take the quick short, pulls you back into the frame, and then you'll be able to see what happens here. My thought is any kind of big bounce action here should give us a collapse. Top range, it could go all the way to 41,480. I don't know if it's going to do that, but just watch. Watch for it and don't get in front of it, please. Value area high is actually at the very high, which is bizarre. Okay, so this 70% region, which defines value area low, value area high, means tell me where the majority of the traders are sitting. I'll tell you that low area and the high area. And so this still looks pretty stinking bullish, if you ask me. Okay, oil. My thought was that oil would come back into 65.17. It did it on the 10th. And what was that low? It came into 65.27. We've got an aggressive bounce formation. As you might recall, if you're trading oil, which, is a winner. If you're sitting on the right side of it, it will just print money. Caveat with if you're sitting on the right side of it. And now we're sitting up here. So oil is collapsing, a lot of different reasons, but this is a zone that we should see buyers start shopping around and moving into the flow. Today, Deanna is going to be on with Coach Dakota on Top Step TV. I love that young woman. She's absolutely fantastic. And she hopefully will trade oil, and you'll get to see a little bit about how she operates. She's so lovely. Very, very smart woman. All right, so that's what we're looking at. Low edge, double bottom possible, and then the rotation back up to 71. That's my thought. Okay, gold. Here we are. Now, this could be a rising wedge. And if it is, it's going to fade. If it isn't, it's going to break out. So my thought is PPI probably going to affect it, but people really aren't moving. And so we are near the 1618. We've been between the 1618 and the 2 off of this range that I drew. This is the last wave that I drew. Moving up here, pullbacks are also buy zones here, most definitively. All right, let's take a look at SPY. Have a gander at this. Came down into 542. 537 is still the low, so it's still making higher lows. Breaking out into the region, as I mentioned, going to look for the point of control as the sticky bits. 560-ish up here, well above the close of the day and above the high. Very big engulfing candlestick of the day before. That has a tendency to be continuation bullish, right? When you have a bullish engulfing candlestick like this and you gap up, this is the wall of worry. It's climbing through. Eyeball 50% up of that. It's 557. The point of control gives us 560. Pullbacks are buy zones here, but the pullbacks are fairly savage. So let's watch for the VIX to bounce, and then we'll have ourselves a good trade. All right? I like it. Same levels to watch. Could we break to all-time highs? You know what? We could. Do I think we're going to? No. But I'm not going to position saying we're definitely not going to, because there's a ton of pressure coming from underneath. I just think it's going to collapse in this range. So let's buy the dip. If it collapses into the range, we get out. Okay? Easy peasy. Qs. Again, I think this is, NVIDIA. Yesterday's performance was otherworldly, as it has been, like going on in there. Point of control up here at 477. Pullback, value area low. I did talk about this zone, right? I said, hey, it'd be great if it came in there, but I don't think it's going to do that. Well, what do you know? 4 days of clumping around the value area low. It's building a lot of volume in here. And so we're guessing that we're going to sit inside of the value area until the rollover, and then that might do something to the ETFs that are, modeling the NASDAQ 100. All right, so pullbacks are buy zones, 465 to all the way to the VWAP, 460 even, right? We have a bullish engulfing candlestick, a lot of motion to the upside. Just be patient. Remember, we're in a sideways market. So if you feel like you've missed the move, don't rush in. It'll give you a spot. Just don't rush in. All right? Hey, that's it for me. I'll see you on the streams.